Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another exciting session on Unacademy CAT-alyst. I am Pariskshit, your quants and DILR expert on the Unacademy platform. Today's session is going to be about the D-Day, 29th of November, right? The day you all are waiting for, the do's, the don'ts, the important instructions that you keep in mind on that specific day. So the next 15 minutes, we are going to talk about A to Z about CAT 2020, the D-Day. So as always, the first thing I tell you is give me 10 seconds to ensure that I'm streaming live before we get started. Yeah, I think we are streaming live and we are good to start. So let's get started with today's session. Okay, so before we talk about the protocol, what happens at the exam center and all details, the first and the foremost thing is what are the essential points that you need to keep in mind, right? The candidate also has a list of do's and don'ts. So first, let's look at the things that you need to do from your end, okay? The first thing, that's very obvious. You need to reach the exam center before the reporting time, right? That is very, very, very important. The last thing you would want is a traffic jam or your Ola or Uber not arriving on time and hence you got delayed, but there will be no excuses and no exceptions. You definitely need to reach your exam center at least 1.5 hours before the exam start time. So by now all of you must have downloaded your CAT admit card. So I hope you know the time slots, right? The morning slot is from 8:30 to 10:30 a.m. It means you definitely need to reach the center by around 7 a.m. in the morning, 1.5 hours before. Second session is between 12:30 to 2:30. So 90 minutes before makes it 11 a.m. You try to reach the center by 11 a.m. And the last session, the evening session, is from 4:30 to 6:30. So you will try to reach by 3 p.m. Please make sure that you definitely do this without fail. Okay? If you reach early, no point. You can wait extra for 20 minutes or 15 minutes. But if you reach late, it might create an issue. And you definitely do not want any hassles just before an important day starts. The next thing is carry your CAT admit card and ID proof. Now, you will not be allowed to enter the exam center without the admit card. And remember, a digital copy or photocopy of your CAT admit card is not admissible. I have seen instances where most of you, what you have a photocopy, a colored photocopy, probably of your Aadhaar card or probably of your driving license. You yourself don't recognize that it's actually a photocopy and not the original. But mind you, when you go there, you need to ensure that you actually have the originals, right? So it is always advisable to carry at least 2 ID proof, just in case one doesn't work out. If you have a passport, nothing like that, then you should always carry 2 admit cards at least. Okay, now remember, you also need to carry 2 printouts of the card of the CAT 2020 admit card. Now when I said the original, I meant the ID proof. So CAT 2020 admit card along with the original ID proof. Now the admit card, you need to carry 2 copies. You need to carry 2 copies. One copy is to be submitted at the exam center and another one is to be retained by the candidate. Now when I say retained, there will be a seal and a sign on it, right? So you definitely carry 2 printouts of your admit card. Next, you need to ensure that you paste your passport size photograph on the printouts of the admit card. Okay, that's also very important. Please make sure that the passport size photo is clear enough. You will be refused entry if your face is not clear enough in the photograph. And remember, the photo that you paste should be the same as the one uploaded with the CAT 2020 application form. Please bear that in mind. So if you want a hassle-free entry, please, if possible, have the same picture which you uploaded on your form while registering for the CAT. The next thing is the documents that you need to carry along with your admit card. Now remember, I just mentioned that you definitely need to carry your originals. So carry at least 2 ID proofs, at least 2 of them. Okay. Now what are the acceptable ID proofs? It can be an ID proof which has to be issued by the government of India. So it can be an Aadhaar card, a voter ID, a passport, a college or a university ID, a driving license, or any other ID proof, but it should be issued by the government of the country, right? Government of India. And again, I repeat, you need to take the originals and at least take 2 of them, okay? Originals. Next, what items are not allowed to be brought at the exam center? Please bear this in mind. You are not allowed to carry these items. You cannot be carrying a bag, any purse, any pencil box, beepers. What are beepers? Anything which creates a sound like an alarm. Wristwatch. Watches are not allowed. Remember? So don't wear a watch. Calculators, mobile phones, electronic devices, scanners, cameras, and especially any Bluetooth transmission or any other communication device. If you are found carrying it inside your exam center, you will be barred from taking the exam. Now, when I say do not carry, it only means you cannot carry it inside your exam center. So obviously, because a lot of exam centers, you need to keep your bag outside without a locker. You might not be given a locker, right? So it is definitely advisable not to carry any expensive item. If you carry an expensive mobile phone, let's say you have an iPhone, is it possible to probably not take the iPhone, and if you have a cheaper phone, a 1100 or a 2000 rupees phone, probably you can take that. Why? Because your bags will be kept outside and at times there might not be a locker, right? So no one will be responsible, definitely not the CAT authorities. They will not be responsible if any item is lost. So it is suggested that you do not carry any expensive items with you. Anyway, they are not allowed inside the exam center. Next, list of do's for the CAT on the exam day. I have again summarized the list of do's, right? That's on the right side of your screen. Now, what are the list of do's? Definitely, you need to carry your admit card. That's something we already spoke about. Next, you need to have a photo ID proof. We talked about it. If possible, this might not be possible for all of you. You need to visit the exam center prior to the day of the exam. That is suggested, advisable. Why? Because on the day of the exam, you definitely do not want to get late or be searching for the exam center. You need to be aware of how much distance is it from your place of home, right? So please, if it is possible, visit the exam center a day or probably a few days before your exam once, so that you know the route well in advance. Be on time. Needless to say this, otherwise you will not be allowed entry. Check the sitting arrangements in advance. Now when I say check the sitting arrangement, it only means you need to check your admit card, because moment you have in your admit card the sitting arrangements are mentioned, right? So when you go there, there will be big notice boards. Let's say B406 is on the second floor. So you need to be aware that your seat number is B406 as an example, right? Next, verification of documents. Now, before you actually write the exam, this will be done by the invigilator. So please make sure that all the documents are ready with you and you have carried them in proper order. If possible, carry a folder with you so that the documents can be easily verified and you can keep them back once they are verified. When I say documents, I do not mean your work-ex. I do not mean your mark sheets. I only mean your admit card, your signature, your photo, your name being spelled correctly, as well as the ID proof will be verified. Next, the rough work will be on the scratch sheets. So these rough papers will be provided on your table before you actually write the exam. So because of COVID guidelines, they will be kept on the table. Needless to say, you need to obey the invigilators. Again, a small point but very useful. you need to use the washroom before the exam starts. Once the exam starts, for a 2-hour period, you might not be allowed to go to the washroom. You will actually not be allowed unless it's an emergency, or probably you have some disease, or probably you have some any pre-existing condition. If you have any pre-existing condition which requires frequent use of the washroom, please do not forget to carry a medical certificate. Otherwise, they might not allow you to use the washroom during the exam period. And then at the end of the exam, one of the admit cards will be collected, the rough sheet will be collected. So you cannot bring anything back home. Okay, so I hope these points are taken care of. Next, let's go to the exam process. Now the first thing is you need to follow a CAT dress code. I don't know how many of you know about the dress code, but it is very, very important. You will not be allowed to wear shoes inside the exam hall. So if you're wearing shoes, you have to open them outside, right? So it is always better to wear floaters or sandals to the exam center, because they can easily be removed whenever required. Next, jewelry. Any sort of jewelry is not allowed. If you have any jewelry, please make sure that you actually open them and keep it at your home, because any sort of jewelry will not be allowed inside the exam center. No jackets. So if there are any heavy jackets, long jackets you are wearing, they will ask you to remove it. You will not especially be allowed to wear clothes with pockets. So if you are wearing a shirt which has a pocket, probably do not do that. Rather wear a t-shirt which do not have a pocket. Okay, and especially for girls, you cannot be applying mehendi on palms. They are not allowed. So please make sure that no mehendi is there on your hands. Okay, these are very small things, but if you violate any of these, the invigilator might not allow you to take the exam. So definitely make sure that you take a note of these points. You will be required to take off your shoes outside the exam hall, and hence my suggestion, as I mentioned a couple of minutes back, you probably wear sandals or slippers and go. Okay, socks will be allowed to be worn inside. Socks are allowed. And again, especially for ladies, you are not allowed to wear any metal hair clips and jewelry. Okay, and during the security check, you will have to remove all of them. So if you have any gold ornaments on your body, please make sure that you remove them, because you do not want to keep them in your bag outside, which might not be very safe. Okay, and there would be proper biometric attendance, biometric verification would be done for you. Okay, now what is the process that is actually followed at the test center? So right, the workflow. The next thing is the workflow. Okay, so when I talk about the workflow, it's self-explanatory. Step 1, you will arrive at the test center, right? Then you will locate your test room from the notice board. So there are notice boards which will be hung outside the building, inside the gate and outside the building. You look at the notice boards, locate the building and your room. Now once you do that, you go to your respective room, and outside the room, your documents will be verified. The admit card, the writings on the admit card. Please make sure that you do not sign the admit card beforehand. Okay, you need to deposit your mobile phone or any wallet or any item that you might be carrying. Then they will frisk you. Then the next process is a frisking. Then they will verify the required documents. You arrive at the block, and then they will do a complete biometric capture. After that, you locate your desk, you log into your test screen, you verify and confirm the profile information. That is important. That will be there on your screen once you log in. Your name will be there, your candidate ID will be there. Please make sure that they match with what is there on your admit card. Then you have to agree to the instructions and check mark the box. There will be a check box, you need to tick that. And once you do that, you can start the test. So moment you start the test, after the test is over, this is probably the relaxing part. You'll register your feedback, you will return your writing pads and pen, and only then you will exit the lab and exit the test center. So this is the workflow that is required to be followed. Now, list of don'ts for your exam. The first thing is no personal items belongings are allowed. Second, please make a note of this. I am sure some of you will go wrong in step 2. Do not sign the admit card beforehand. You need to sign the admit card only in front of the invigilator. Okay. So on your admit card, there is an option to sign. Do not sign it now. So on the day of your exam, in front of the invigilator, you need to make the signature. Okay. Don't forget this. No unfair practices happens in all exams. There cannot be a request for a seat change, right? So whatever seat has been allotted to you is predestined, and you will go to that seat only. No bio breaks unless it's an emergency. If you have a medical condition which requires bio break, please make sure that you carry a medical certificate. Then you cannot pick into someone else's computer. You might be barred for doing so. You cannot be applying mehendi or henna on your hands. You cannot wear any restricted items. You cannot be wasting rough sheets. Does it mean there is a limitation to the number of rough sheets? No. But once you need extra rough sheets, right, you probably have to raise your hand, get up. That itself will take some seconds, if not minutes. And remember, in the CAT, every second counts. So don't do that. Make proper use of the rough sheets. And then obviously, you cannot have any companion accompanying you inside the test center. And because this is a COVID year, there are extra guidelines this year. Okay. So please make sure that you read these guidelines. I have noted the main ones. You need to maintain physical distance. You need to reach the exam center exactly at the reporting time. What does it mean? So that you minimize the time you spend with the crowd. Now, it is always better to reach beforehand, I personally believe. And if you have your personal car, you might be sitting inside your car. Just don't mix up with the crowd over there. Next, your body temperature will be checked. Okay, you should not be having a high temperature. Then it is also important that you carry a face mask. You need to wear a face mask from the moment you enter inside the gate till the time you exit. So if you want, you probably would want to write 1 or 2 mocks wearing a face mask so that it doesn't create any sort of disturbance. Okay, just get adjusted to it. I would suggest write the last mock wearing a face mask in your home. Next, you need to carry drinking water by yourself, because it's COVID time. Drinking water might not be provided. If you carry drinking water, make sure that you carry them in a transparent bottle, a small transparent bottle. Okay, and you definitely need to carry hand sanitizer. And again, whatever you carry, any liquid, it has to be in a transparent bottle. You need to carry it in a transparent bottle. So I hope I have given you all the do's and don'ts on the day of the D-Day. Now last, I also probably would want to add 1 or 2 lines on the day before your exam. On the day before your exam, the 28th of November, a day before your exam, do not take stress. Definitely do not write any new mock on that day. It is time to actually enjoy, probably watch a movie, relax, and most importantly, please make sure that you get a good night's sleep. It is very important that you have a proper sleep the day before your exam. You do not want to feel sleepy. You definitely do not want your brain not to be at its maximum efficiency. So have a proper sleep a day before the exam. Just have a sheet of paper, probably revise the formula for 30 minutes, watch a movie, go out and probably speak to your friends, do things you like basically, okay? So that you are very fresh on the exam day. Probably if you have not studied for 1 year, you cannot study in 1 day. And the vice versa is also true. If you have already studied for 1 year, it's no point studying for 1 extra day. Trust me, nothing will happen. It's not an exam where you will get questions where you need to mug up, right? It's all logic. So I think we discussed almost everything that was required to be known on the 29th of November, the D-Day for the exam. In case you have any queries, you can post it in your comment section and I'll be glad to answer them. Any queries, any observations or any confusion you might be having at this point of time, feel free to ask. Okay, so remember, I know all of you would do well. Plus, please make sure that you today follow the do's and don'ts, especially the guidelines on carrying your admit card and your ID proof in original. Okay, and do not wear any prohibited items. So I think that's it for today. If you have liked my lecture, liked the session, please do hit the like button. Okay, that motivates me to make more and more sessions. So thank you everyone, and I will see you tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m. for another exciting session of mine. Till then, take care and stay safe. Bye.